In every single instance, I thought the memeified version of the scandal was like exaggerating things. A great example to start is the accusation that Harris kept people in prison to use as cheap laborers. I thought what they must mean is she didn't let some people out of prison, and the state probably had a policy at the same time of using the people as laborers.
Yeah.
There is no way she went on record and said, I'm supposed to release this person, but we need cheap labor right now. Now, I heard some allegations that she slept her way to her position. My assumption about these allegations was maybe she had a relationship with someone else in her department. There's no way someone who she was sleeping with is on record saying I gave her a job because she was sleeping with me. There's no way that this person had an age gap with her.
Now, age gaps are considered quite hot by quite a few people.
I don't think you'd find this one hot. Harris dated Willie Brown when she was in her 20s and he was 60.
Ooh.
Surely she didn't provide cover for police who fatally shot people in questionable circumstances. Okay, what about corruption? Conflict of interest matters when you aren't the only body that can investigate them. You don't just get to say they get to do whatever they want because they're your friend. That is wild. I will post a picture here of Kamala Harris's face, made up of pictures of Black people she kept in jail knowing they were innocent. She did this to thousands of Black people, and she did it to secure the endorsement of the police union to win an election. If you wonder, is this the type of person who would put me and my family in jail to win an election? No, but genuinely, if you are worried about our democracy, like for people who are like, I am worried about the health of the democracy, you should be fucking terrified of this candidate.
Would you like to know more?
Hello, Simone. I am excited to be here with you today. The writers of the America show have been doing a great job recently because I'm loving these twists. Kamala Harris, so something really insane happened. So for people who don't know American politics or what's going on right now, just a little recap. The person running against Donald Trump, Joe Biden, it turned out in a debate that he seemed to basically be comatose. Like he did not seem like a fully mentally functioning person. And it became very clear that our government is now run by the deep state. I love that the last election cycle, deep state is a myth. Now it's, well, yes, Biden may not be able to think clearly, but everything's operating fine without him. So you really should vote for him, shouldn't you?
I feel like it's more than that. It's even like, but isn't it nice that the deep state's running? I mean, like politicians, who likes them anyway?
We literally nearly had an election cycle where it was Trump versus the deep state because obviously Biden's not running anything. So he got a lot of pressure from Dems to drop out. Interestingly, not from Kamala. She stayed very loyal in this respect to the end, saying that he shouldn't drop out and that the deep state had everything handled, basically.
The right move. It was very savvy on her part.
And then he said recently, okay, I am dropping out and Kamala's the presumptive nominee. Well, this is interesting because it wasn't what I thought would happen. In fact, I thought it was the least likely thing to happen because it seems like it's literally the only thing that could have happened that was worse than Biden staying at the top of the ticket.
Oh, dear.
What I suspected would happen is they would have some sort of election cycle at the convention or some sort of write-in thing, and they would choose another candidate. But we need to talk about why I didn't expect anyone to give Kamala Harris this.
Okay.
Because, well, in broad terms, you know, when BLM was marching on the streets, right? The human manifestation of every complaint they had is Kamala Harris. She is a human manifestation of all of the complaints of the BLM movement.
Well, and Malcolm is saying this because prior to becoming a senator, prior to becoming vice president, Kamala Harris was a district attorney in
And we'll be talking about
California.
her record in this.
Yeah, and a district attorney, their job to a great extent is to put away criminals, and
Well, Simone,
that's
I
not.
think that you're like you have said this to me earlier today and is just wrong. Like you don't think that woke district attorneys exist, and they do.
Yeah, no,
District
and yeah,
attorneys,
there was even one in Southern California that was so egregious in not putting away criminals and sort of just letting them out that they ultimately were removed from
yeah. So
office.
it's not the problem that she was a district attorney. The
Mm.
problem is she was an authoritarian district attorney. Like her politics, and I think this is really interesting, and we mentioned it in a previous episode. Are the Democratic Party right now is made up of a few aligned factions, and we'll do an episode on this. One of the factions is big business. They moved from the Republican side to the Democratic side, as well as intergenerational wealth, which now is like straight up incredibly left leaning. Another side is the urban monocultural faction. These are people who are primarily dominated by this like cult basically that exists now and is seen in things like wokeism and DEI and stuff like that. Kamala Harris is in neither of these factions. She's in the third Democratic faction, which I call the authoritarian faction, which is primarily driven by the belief that society can be fixed by strict government control, either by police forces or by military, which she has shown through her actions, which we'll go over. But
And I would say this is notable because it's otherwise very difficult to even get a picture of what Kamala Harris thinks or believes. She's kind of famous for non-statement statements and also for demonstrating whatever is the most politically in vogue amongst Democrats at the time. So the interesting analysis that Malcolm has done recently, and what I think is going to be most interesting about this conversation, is what through Kamala Harris's actions, the few times she has sort of done something it's irrevocably like taking a stand on something, what that actually reveals about her true beliefs, because it can be very hard to center in on what they are.
And I don't think it's hard when you look at her actions. She is completely authoritarian minded.
I've looked through the coverage of her, discussion of her from both her proponents and her detractors, and there is very little discussion of her actual track record. So I'm glad you're doing this.
Well, and this has also been interesting for me, and I think that before we get into this, the progressive media is making a huge fundamental misstep here. Wynn retired and said, Kamala Harris is who I am backing. You look at your Rachel Maddows, and I'll do some stuff here. I'll call it like Kamala Harris derangement syndrome.
With President Biden voicing a strong and unequivocal endorsement of his vice president, Kamala Harris, with Vice President Harris confirming immediately that she is running, saying we have 107 days until Election Day. Together we will fight and together we will win, with no resulting ambiguity about who will be the Democratic Party's nominee. The little scratchy, papery sound you're hearing in the distance? That's every Democratic donor in the country writing the biggest check they have ever written in American politics.
Where they all just went over how amazing Kamala Harris is as a candidate. This is a mistake. They should not be doing this. We actually earlier today, in the episode will go live later, we're doing an episode with Maxim Lott, who runs a lot of the betting odds websites. The betting odds right here now give her a third probability to win against Trump, while most other Democrats actually are like 63 or 65% probability to win. Yes, they don't win in the mainstream polls, but that's just because of name recognition. The bettors, which are typically more accurate, say that they have a dramatically higher chance of winning. And so now we need to talk specifically about why she has such a low probability of winning and her actual record. Because it is the interesting thing about the authoritarian faction of the Progressive Party is among the progressive elite, and we hang out with these groups and stuff like that, it's a faction that is like politically palatable to them, the big business types and stuff like that. It is politically toxic to the base. The Democratic base, like any numbers, hate the authoritarian side of the party. And the authoritarian side exists only because a portion of the party has basically grown up living in the bureaucratic governing system. And their views are not built around designing to appealing to the base, but rather the mindset of somebody who's been a lifelong bureaucrat and thinks the bureaucracy knows what's best. And when I say best, well, in sort of horrifying ways. So I'm going to go over a few sort of AI responses on issues because I've been going into AI to sort of get good summaries of various scandals that I happen to know she was involved in. And in every single instance, I thought the memeified version of the scandal was like exaggerating things. And typically the memeified version was more bad than I thought. So a great example to start is the accusation that Harris kept people in prison to use as cheap laborers. I thought, well, what they must mean is she didn't let some people out of prison, and the state probably had a policy at the same time of using the people as laborers.
Yeah.
There is no way she went on record and said, I'm supposed to release this person, but we need cheap labor right now. But here's the thing.
Okay.
Let's go over this. The accusation that Kamala Harris used prisoners for labor primarily referred to actions taken by her office while she was Attorney General of California. Specifically, in 2014, lawyers under her oversight argued against the early release of nonviolent inmates, citing the need to maintain a cheap labor force for the state's prison work programs, including those that help fight wildfires. Background details: prison overcrowding and Supreme Court ruling. In 2011, the Supreme Court ruled that California's prison overcrowding violated the Constitution's prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment.
Oh my God.
The state was ordered to reduce its prison population, leading to a series of legal and administrative measures to comply with this ruling. Arguments against early release. In 2014, as part of the effort to address overcrowding, a 3-judge panel ordered California to make nonviolent prisoners with only 2 felonies eligible for parole if they had served half their sentences.
Okay.
So a panel of judges goes to her, says, this is cruel and unusual punishment by the U.S. And this was the U.S. Supreme Court. It's not like activist judges or something like that.
Yeah.
So this was backed up by the Supreme Court and then another court. Your prison system is cruel and unusual punishment. And then Kamala goes, lawyers from Harris's office argued against this order, stating that releasing these inmates would negatively impact the prison labor programs, particularly the fire camp program essential for combating wildfires during a severe drought.
Okay, so
So you see what I mean when I say an authoritarian mindset. This is not normal Democrat or normal progressive or normal urban monoculture. In a way, I have to admire her what's the word I'm thinking about? Lateral thinking here.
Someone's got to get the work done.
outside
Someone's
the
got to
box.
put out those fires,
The
Malcolm.
Supreme Court says this is cruel and unusual punishment. Another court says you have to release these inmates.
This is a presidential candidate who gets things done. Thank you very much.
She gets
All
things
right.
done. She's got a resource on hand.
People, I mean, we want, Trump says he'll be dictator for a day. Kamala has proven that she can be. She's got it in her.
She's willing to be dictator for life.
Yeah.
No, but genuinely, if you are worried about our democracy, like for people who are like, I am worried about the health of the democracy, you should be fucking terrified of this candidate. You should be terrified of somebody who didn't win their primary democratically, is not doing the honorable thing and putting this up to a Democratic vote at the convention, and is just trying to walk into the presidency here and has a very, very, very authoritarian mindset. But hold on, no, I need to say, you might be like, well, she only gets on the bad side of BLM. There's been, it's a woman president, right? This must be great for the Me Too movement. Now, I heard some allegations that she slept her way to her position. My assumption about these allegations was maybe she had a relationship with someone else in her department. There's no way someone who she was sleeping with is on record saying I gave her a job because she was sleeping with me. There's no way that this person had a 30-year age gap with her.
Now, age gaps are considered quite hot by quite a few people. I see it come up again and again in romance novels.
I don't think you'd find this one hot. Harris dated Willie Brown in the 1990s when she was in her 20s and he was 60.
Ooh.
I don't know of any book that has a 20-year-old dating a 60-year-old.
No, yeah, usually it's a 40-year-old. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Or it's like a fairy that's 500 years old, vampire that's 300, but they look the same age. So
No. This is very clearly for moving up in the world. This was not a relationship of sexual attraction. Brown, the man who she was cheating with, was married, but separated from his wife during the relationship. So, okay. The relationship ended before Harris first ran for office. So, good point in her nature there. The problem is appointments during Brown's tenure. While they were dating, Brown appointed Harris to 2 state commissions, the California Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board and the Medical Assistance Commission. These were part-time positions that provided additional income to Harris. Brown's influence. Brown has publicly acknowledged that he may have influenced Harris's early career, stating he had, quote, helped her with her first race for district attorney in San Francisco, end quote. Phew. Now, for people who don't know, they can be like, oh, that was early in her career. It doesn't really matter. Actually, these early career jumps are the very hardest part of a career.
Totally. Getting the foot in the door, getting those connections, that's everything. Totally.
He and state commissions, high level positions within state commissions are huge. If you're planning to run next, get donor money, etc. She literally and on record slept her way to the top. Not like attractive sleeping their way to the top, but 20-year-old with 60-year-old sleeping your way to the top.
But remember that, this is something that we've often discussed when it comes to Me Too. When that one's like really anchoring time when we saw a panel of people in entertainment have an off the record conversation about Me Too, and the one man on the panel who was a notable actor who we'd seen in movies was like, well, gosh, I wish that I had that as an option. She, I think, represents the thing that is wonderful, empowering about Me Too, which is that women can sleep their way to the top. And it is so nice that one can use one's feminism, okay? That she's
a
girl
feminist.
Power. She's a girl boss who's using the resources available to her to get it done. And that's great.
But hold on, we're going to keep going here. It doesn't get over. I'm just getting into the beginning here. You know how a lot of people have said that you and I have this insane fantasy that an authoritarian faction of Democrats would force children to go to public schools or be arrested. That is surely an insane conspiratorial fantasy. As San Francisco's district attorney, Kamala Harris launched an anti-truancy program around 2008 aimed at reducing chronic absenteeism by holding parents accountable. This program was later expanded statewide when she became the California Attorney General. The law, enacted in 2011, allowed district attorneys to charge parents with a misdemeanor if their children missed 10% or more of the school year without a valid excuse.
Yeah, that's really screwed up.
This is mostly like poor Black families that are being arrested over this because they can't, keep an eye on their kids as easily. And like, it is insane. Who's getting targeted for this is mostly poor Black single mothers. And this is by the data. This is like what the interviewers found. This isn't me. When Black people are like, the police are like coming to our neighborhoods and trying to take our kids from us and stuff, Kamala Harris is who they're thinking of. If you're like, well, I'm an all cops are bastard person, right? And I'm not that way. I actually think police prefer a valuable service in our country. However, I don't know optically how Kamala Harris, calling herself California's top cop, is going to look to the BLM crowd. That is who she sees herself as. Aspirationally, she's top cop, where to her, the police are a way to enforce her social values on a population. And we can talk about some of her role in this sort of stuff. So here is a thing where you're like, surely she didn't provide cover for police who fatally shot people in questionable circumstances. As the query appears to be referring to Kamala Harris's actions or lack thereof regarding police shootings when she was California's Attorney General. Here are the key points. As California's Attorney General from 2011 to 2017, Harris did not intervene or investigate several high-profile police shootings, despite calls from the public and local officials to do so. Specifically, the article mentions that Harris did not investigate the fatal shootings of two unarmed men by the same Anaheim police officer, Nick Belknap, less than a year apart. This was despite calls from Anaheim's mayor and members of the public following the second shooting. Instead of conducting an independent investigation, Harris left the task to the Orange County District Attorney's Office, which was known for being lenient on police officers and was embroiled in a misconduct scandal at the time. Harris suggested her office would review the findings of the District Attorney's Office, but the article states that there is no evidence that a serious review ever took place. And so what happened as a result of this? The officer in question was involved in another fatal shooting later. This is wild. Okay, what about corruption? The San Bernardino County corruption case was a significant issue involving allegations of bribery, fraud, and other corrupt practices by county officials and developers. The case included a controversial $102 million settlement with a developer over a land dispute and allegations of kickback to county officials. Harris's role. Critics argue that Harris's office did not take a proactive stance in investigating the corruption allegations in San Bernardino County. Despite the gravity of the case, there were perceptions that her office was slow to act and did not pursue the investigation with necessary rigor. Oh my gosh. And then there's a different one here. The Moonlit Fire incident. The Moonlit Fire incident involved allegations of corruption and misconduct by state employees in relation to wildlife fire investigation. There were accusations that state officials had falsified reports and engaged in other unethical practices. Harris declined to investigate the allegations, citing potential conflicts of interest. The decision was criticized as the failure to hold government officials accountable and raised questions about her commitment to addressing corruption. So she's not like normal authoritarian, like you might be like, oh, she's a by the rules person. No, she's the bureaucrats cannot break the law. If you are a bureaucrat, your actions are intrinsically good. If you are a citizen under the bureaucrats, your actions are intrinsically evil. She is a Brown style, Gestapo style authoritarian.
Yeah, I'm having a difficulty figuring out ways to like rationalize this after everything you've presented. I mean, I think it's hard for a normal prosecutor, obviously not a crazy woke one, to not look a little authoritarian, but this is further along than
well, I mean, she
I
also
expected.
completely lacks empathy. So there's a great thing here where she went to the border. This was in 2021, into her candidacy. So she went to what was it called again? So
Detention center where children were.
Visit to the border. Vice President Kamala Harris visited the border city of El Paso, Texas, marking her first trip to the border since taking office. This visit was part of her role in addressing the root cause of migration from Central America, the wave incidents. During her visit, Kamala Harris was photographed waving to a group of children who were behind a chain link fence, and they were in a these were children who had been separated from their parents under her administration and were being kept in a detention center. And so she's just like, hey guys, great to see you. I'm keeping you as slaves. That's basically her take on this. And that is absolutely wild. And if you look at illegal border crossings, if you look at illegal border detentions as well during the Biden presidency, the things that you would criticize a Republican for. And this is the interesting thing. She is actually, I think in most ways where you actually see her policy positions, quite to the right of Trump in terms of her authoritarian mindedness, which I don't know, is that going to peel off some Republicans, or are they like, yeah, I wanted an authoritarian, not a fascist communist, which is.
But also she is getting involved, with the exception of abortion, with policies as a vice president that I think are quite unpopular among many centrists. Like, I don't think Americans are very happy with the immigration situation in the United States. And that's one of those things she's tried to champion is her thing as vice president, along with activity in Israel, Ukraine, along with activity around voting rights. And abortion, I think, is probably the one thing where she's going to do really well. So I don't know. It's
No,
an
no.
interesting
Hold
choice.
on. I will post a picture here
Oh,
of Kamala Harris's face, made up of pictures of Black people she kept in jail knowing they were
God.
innocent, because she did this to thousands of Black people. And she did it to secure the endorsement of the police union at the time, which she used to win an election. So let's go over this particular incident here. So first, prosecutorial record, the former district. Okay. For instance, she was involved in cases where her office failed to disclose crucial information to defense attorneys, leading to the dismissal of numerous drug cases. So let's see, what was she talking about in this instance here? Kamala Harris's willingness to bend rules to secure convictions can be attributed to several factors, including political ambitions, pressure to improve conviction rates, and the broader context of her prosecutorial career. Harris's career trajectory shows a clear pattern of using her prosecutorial record to build a political platform. During her first race for San Francisco District Attorney, she campaigned as quote-unquote tough on crime, contrasting herself with her more progressive opponent, Terrence Hallahan, who had a low conviction rate. So it is possible to be a district attorney and have a low conviction rate. This tough on crime stance helped her gain endorsements from law enforcement and conservative-leaning entities, which were crucial to her electoral success. Now, we need to talk about this individual case.
I like that you're covering a lot of things that are not just her ridiculous speech style and the extent to which she is channeling Selena Meyer from the HBO show Veep, which for whatever reason you just don't really like, but I've watched like 3 or 4 times now because it's so freaking hilarious.
Okay, so I will go over this particular incident as well. So this scandal occurred while Harris was San Francisco's district attorney and running for California Attorney General in 2010. So remember, this occurred so that she could win that second race, which she was able to do given the high crime conviction rate that she was able to achieve.
Okay.
It involved a crime lab technician who was found to have been stealing cocaine from the lab's evidence supply, potentially compromising evidence in numerous drug cases. Neither Harris nor her team informed defense attorneys about this issue, despite rules mandating such a disclosure. This failure was later criticized by the Superior Court judge. Initially, Harris shifted blame to the police and downplayed the impact on cases. However, as the situation worsened, she took more decisive action. To address the growing crisis, Harris made the decision to dismiss around 1,000 drug-related cases to prevent further chaos in the criminal justice system. This scandal highlighted Harris's failure after 6 years as district attorney to establish clear procedures, ensuring defendants were informed about potentially compromised evidence and testimony. Harris eventually acknowledged responsibility for her shortcomings, so this is huge. Thousands of people were left in jail, and most of them were Black, so that she could win, that should have been notified that they had the right to be released based on compromised evidence, so that she could win an election. If you wonder, is this the type of person who would put me and my family in jail to win an election? What if I'm the type of person who agrees with her, i.e. I'm one of the protected classes in progressive worlds? What if I'm a Black single mother? Is she the type of person who would put me in jail if it helped her win an election? Yes. That's exactly the kind of.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like anyone's safe in this world from policies that she's enacted.
And I'd also point out that everyone who seems to work with her hates her. Her office has been very famous, and it's been quite a scandal for the administration for having an extremely high turnover rate.
Oh, really?
Yes, including that, Jill Biden apparently hates her guts, and that's probably the reason it took so long for Biden to step down, because Jill didn't want her to be the successor. It's like, I would rather burn down the party than let Harris win. So specifically, Kamala Harris was seen by Jill as using Joe for her own career, and Jill did not believe that Kamala added anything to his candidacy and that he could have won easily without her. And she's probably right across the board there. I think Kamala has always been a net negative and really always just a diversity hire by sort of a generation of older conservatives who don't understand that this authoritarian mindset doesn't work is the base. And so apparently Jill hates her and her office has really high turnover. So I think you can learn about somebody's true nature by the people around them, right? For example, Trump's true nature is incredibly high gossip in his offices and high infighting. And that seems like the type of thing Trump would engender. in those around him, given the way that he runs things. In terms of Kamala, it's just that nobody could stand to be around her or work under her for very long. So have fun, world. This is where we're going. I'm wondering if you have thoughts, and I want to get into her politics specifically because I find this authoritarian wing of the Democratic Party really fascinating personally.
I'm struggling to understand, maybe because I wasn't that involved in the backstory, you know, how she ended up as VP, how this even came to happen, because she didn't make it very far in the primary process when it was, you know, she dropped out super early. No one thought she was a really strong candidate. And I just don't really understand how it came to be that she was selected as vice president in the first place.
He was looking for a Black woman. That was the core thing he was looking for. I bet he really only looked at candidates who were Black women.
Well, there are other Black female.
There are not that many who are that high up in the Democratic Party. And that can be chosen. And then you've got to remember, he's looking for a Black woman who isn't woke. That was the other requirement there, which because Joe Biden isn't woke fundamentally, right?
Yeah, so he's quite centrist.
From the next faction, in the same way that, like, I described the two sort of antagonistic sections of the Republican Party being GOP Inc. and the New Right, and then the Trumpists are sort of the middle governing faction. In the Democratic power politics, right now, the governing middle faction is, I call it the Democratic gerontocracy. These are people who basically think the world still operates the way the world did in the 90s. The parties represent what they represented in the 90s, and they're just sort of blind to the ways their base in the world has changed. And Joe heavily represents that mindset. But this mindset is also the mindset of Obama. And so it's one that we have seen throughout a lot of the ruling Democratic Party for a long time. Now, if you look at the parties that have formed under this, you have the authoritarian faction, which believes that the government should basically, through the police force, control every aspect of your life. And then the other group, which believes that the government should be torn apart, and we need to move towards some sort of new system of governance.
Right.
Well, obviously, the entrenched bureaucrats really hate that. So who supports the authoritarian faction? Who is their voting bloc and who are their avatars?
Yeah.
Clinton is the first avatar of this faction. She is less aligned with him. She was half gerontocracy, half authoritarian. Kamala is pure authoritarian. Who is keeping them in office? It's organizations like teachers' unions. They appeal really heavily to groups like this. And they can peel off some state unions from people like Trump by appealing to things like police unions. For example, do you think that police unions were going to recommend anyone vote for any Democratic candidate other than Kamala? But now they've got Kamala, you know, she can actually appeal to these groups, which I suppose is nice. I will never make you wear body cams. I will never put you in jail for a fatal shooting. Just look at my track record. People will die. I am so insistent that you will never face consequences for anything. And okay, I get that. I personally support the police force, but I do believe that governments, because where she gets me, it's with the police force, I don't know, wishy-washy one way or the other. Maybe she was in the right with that stuff. But the not investigating general corruption charges that absolutely she should have investigated was the squirrely conflict of interest. Complete, like, well, conflict of interest matters when you aren't the only body that can investigate them. You don't just get to say they get to do whatever they want because they're your friend. That's basically what she meant by conflict of interest there. That is wild. And so, why did this faction rise? Well, they rose in the same way that Christian socialists rose. Remember how we talked about this Christian socialist faction of the GOP Inc.?
Right.
That gained power because the old GOP was an alliance of the Democrats and the big business interests. And when big business interests left, the remainders of that faction were no longer tethered to any sort of economic reality. And a few elites that had worked their way to the top and had worked within bureaucracy for a long time, because they live and breathe bureaucracy, to them, bureaucracy is how you solve all problems. You just need more Christian bureaucracy. And in our Discord and in some of our comments, people are like, oh yeah, that'll work. A more Christian bureaucracy. No. Marxism plus Christianity, these two things are opposed to each other. When you hold these two mindsets together, you end up fundamentally failing. When countries try to enforce a Christian value system on a population, they don't help that population get into heaven. You know, preventing gay people from marrying doesn't help save their souls. What it makes is the church their enemy, and it makes it less likely that they're going to view the church favorably and engage with it. And you're unable to win elections, and you're not even appealing to the vast majority of the Republican base, which is a pro-gay marriage at this point. It's something like only 30% still oppose it. So the idea that like this is a good idea is just dumb, but they have a vast amount of power within the political apparatus of the Republican Party. It's the same with the authoritarian faction of the Democrats. They have lived and breathed bureaucracy their entire life. And so from their perspective, the bureaucracy enforcing the urban monocultural value system is the best way to make a good society. And so it's this faction that is like, I think if you're talking about like the Democratic base, how big is it? I'd say it's maybe 12, 13% of the Democratic base, really just a few specific public sector unions and a few, you know, people who are really agree with this sort of strict teacher mindset. But I'd argue that they're a good 60% of the Democratic political apparatus. And that's what people are missing, especially the younger individuals in the Democratic political apparatus. And they are way more dangerous than the wokes because they're more efficient and they really have no moral system they operate off of except for accumulate power, exercise power.
And this really exemplifies how divorced from humans many political factions have become. And by that, I mean, like, it is more unions, it is more large bureaucracies that are selecting and platforming these candidates and ensuring that they have money, and not individual people, not the interests of families or even like smaller churches or, you know, workers associations. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, we also need to keep in mind how crazy the Democrats have gotten. So now 34% of registered Dems believe Trump staged his own assassination. Democrats are building like an absolutely crazier than QAnon conspiracy theory around Trump. I've seen this within my circles. Complete denial of Kamala Harris's past deeds. You will hear over and over again among DMs, well, it wasn't really that bad that she kept people in jail who she knew should have been released based on policy. And it's not like she wasn't told by people she needed to move ahead with this stuff. That's the thing that gets me. It's not like she forgot to do X or she forgot to do Y. She would have other departments say, you need to release these people. And she goes, I need free labor. Like, what? And it's not even efficient free labor. That's the thing to remember about authoritarianism. If you look at the cost per head per year of a prisoner, it is more than hiring firefighters to handle these fires. It is about control for these people. It is not about the public utility. It is about the belief that the state should have as much control of the population as possible through as direct a means as possible.
That's scary.
Well, I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, what was your historic perception of Kamala? Like, what, et cetera?
I always thought she was an odd selection because of the way that she had called out Biden in the beginning. I think she called him a racist, if memory serves.
Oh, God.
And then
That's
she
the race
was
card user.
selected as his running mate. It just seemed really odd to me. Like the party was basically trying to show like, yeah, we hate old white men. They're terrible. And that's why we selected a running mate that hates him. And then as the VP, I was also confused because she, you know, you don't have to actually do that much as a VP. Like you just have to be there if the president dies. Like there have been vice presidents who've just spent the entire time in New York blitzed, like, which sounds fantastic to me. Sign me up for that. But she's actually been going on trips. She's traveled to over 100 countries as vice president. She has, you know, policy decisions. She's wanted to be very publicly and prominently involved in immigration, in foreign policy, in gun control.
Well, I mean, let's talk about the gun control issue here really quickly. So, for example, her suggestion to use executive orders for gun control if Congress didn't pass an act within 100 days was viewed by critics as bypassing the legislative process. So if you're like afraid somebody's going to take your guns, yeah, she wants to use executive authority to declare an executive act, regardless of what Congress and the Senate do, to take your guns. This is not a, well,
Yeah,
the
there's a
president-
reason why I was telling you this morning. I'm like, we should get more AR-15s and have one on the wall in any room of the house.
Well,
Because,
then create a task item. Let's do that right
I
now.
will. I'll create a task item. Yeah. Well,
Um,
maybe I don't know. Like, are there there have to be Black Friday gun sales. Maybe this can be our Black Friday thing.
Yeah,
We'll
let's
see
go Black Friday gun crazy this year.
It's fall's around the corner. I can't wait. But so what also surprises me is that normally when you're selecting a presidential candidate, you're trying to go as centrist as possible. And she's
wasn't woke.
actually a lot more. What's weird is that she's more hardline authoritarian, as you've pointed out, but she's also perceived in the media, and she presents herself as being a lot more far left, is being more extreme progressive, more extreme woke. And that was how I think she was selected from a narrative perspective as the running mate. She was the party's apology to people who wanted to be castigated by
But her
a
actions
non-white
are the
female.
jail Black people, jail
Well,
single
yes,
Black
I
mothers.
guess that's just the non-white female they got, but she's still absolutely playing up the role of the more extreme leftist candidate here. So I feel like there's this really weird interplay between this like conservative authoritarian and this like woke avatar or amulet being used by progressives.
She's
and
not a
I don't
conservative
know how to.
authoritarian. She's a communist authoritarian.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. She
Oh,
is,
thank goodness. Okay,
Oh,
that
yeah.
makes everything better.
But we've also got to keep in mind why I don't think she has a shot, like a
Mhm.
shot at all. So
Okay.
one thing that is going to keep Democrats from voting from her, and a lot of Democrats have said, I just will not make this vote, is her stance on Israel. She is pro-Israel in this war. And for a lot of Democrats, that is an absolute red line for a candidate.
Yeah.
So,
But they wouldn't have voted for Biden anyway. So that's the thing, is she's slightly marginally better in some people's eyes. And that's, I guess, what we're going for now. And by we, I guess not we, because that's what Democrats are going for now.
Yeah. I just say that if she is running, the thing that scares me most about her running is the possibility of her winning. Not because I think she actually has a possibility of winning, but I think that if she wins, it will be confirmation for most sane Americans that there was, without any shadow of a doubt, election rigging.
Just because there's the interest in her is so mediocre.
There's no way she could be. I mean, with the assassination attempt and the
A lot can happen in the intervening 100 days or so that we have.
Yeah. Maybe there's some big thing that blows up for Trump. But if things are continuing on the path that they've been going, right? And I saw her elected, I would say I absolutely, like me personally, do not believe that's possible with the current electorate.
I don't know, because I don't think that Democrats who are looking to vote for someone who's not Trump are going to understand that when they're being told by mainstream media figures that Trump is advocating for a nationwide ban on abortions, which he's not, but that's what people are being told, and that Trump plans on doing, like is fully in support of Project 2024, which he's not, but that's what people are still saying. I don't.
Trump literally written into the Republican platform. People who don't know that, one, marriage is not between a man and a woman. So, like,
I don't
pro-gay Republican platform now. He literally wrote into the Republican platform nothing about this abortion stuff, which they wanted to write in. He pushed against that. He said, "Look, I won you the abortion victory already that you needed. We will not go further on this issue." Trump has been very clear on this. And J.D. Vance has capitulated to Trump's position. And I think, of course, J.D. Vance, I like him.
And what is the media saying? They're saying, oh, and now Trump has selected for his VP pick J.D. Vance, who is in favor of categorically removing all abortion access, even in the case.
Well, hold on. No, this is what they're saying. But the truth is,
well, but my argument is it doesn't matter what reality is. What matters is that people who are Democrats and who are not already interested in voting for Trump, and there are many people, are not going to be exposed to information that shows them that the other side is more moderate than they think.
I don't know. I suspect that like this is my read. Like for example, the Harris pick, right? You go into like Black Twitter or like Black online conversation places. It's not like they don't know about Harris's history. She is not an Obama to them. She is the personification of everything BLM was campaigning against. And this was made clear because of the divisive primary that she participated in an election cycle ago, or 2 election cycles ago. So everybody remembers that. Everybody remembers the Dems attacking her, even within Dem media. They know about all of her convictions. And I'm sure that this was something that was top of mind during the presidency of like why we still need to watch out about a Biden presidency. She was always the black mark on his presidency. Well, her and his son. And so I think that just more Democrats remember this. I think that this has pierced the informational veil already by Dems pushing it. And it's also why Dems can't have a contested convention. Because if they have a contested convention, I suspect this is why they're not pushing for one right now, and she ends up winning, it will be out within Dem circles, all of the crazy stuff she's done. Like, this is not like small stuff. This is when I've had power, I have used it in an authoritarian fashion.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, any final thoughts? The audience loves to hear from you. What's your summation of all this?
My summation, Kamala Harris, yikes. Now the election has switched from Trump versus deep state to Trump versus deep state autocrat, which is scarier.
I think an aspirant dictator.
Aspirant dictator. Oh, yeah. Okay. I mean, Trump is an aspirant dictator, kind of. So I guess now we have a more matched run. And
I don't think Trump. No, I think
he says he wants to be dictator for a day on his first day. Like that's
that is just saying he wants to get shit done. Come on.
Yeah.
Trump,
I'm sorry. Kamala got shit done. Someone has to put out those fires. She keeps those people in their work programs.
No, what I mean is if you look at Trump's history, he doesn't have a history of dictatorial-like actions. He's much more cult of personality based. Kamala Harris has a history of let's lock up the dissidents, etc. type mindset. I just don't think Trump could stomach that sort of thing. He's got a revolutionary mindset, I would argue, which does worry some people. But it's not the revolutionary mindset of a dictator. It's the revolutionary mindset of somebody who wants to be the hero of a revolution or the hero of a story. Kamala has a revolutionary mindset in a, well, let's just silence the stupid people. They're making things harder for the machine to work as it's supposed to, which is a very different type of revolutionary mindset. In a way, I sort of feel like if she's running, from my perspective, she's much further right than Trump.
In some ways, she absolutely is. Actually, in many ways, Jack. Yeah. But I don't know if a large portion of the electorate is going to see beyond old white man to slightly less old. She's 59 years old, not white woman. I don't know if we're going to be thinking about that.
By the way, if you're wondering, so I was trying to find out what her religion is, right? This is
okay.
What happened?
I don't know. She thought about Kamala Harris too much. I think she just had a bad dream. She was very asleep.
So Kamala Harris identifies as a Baptist. She grew up in an interfaith household, attending both Black Baptist Church and a Hindu temple. Her mother, Shamala Goplana, was Hindi, and her father, Donald Harris, was Christian.
The hell
Harris emphasized that her faith journey began in her adulthood, where she and her sister attended services at the 23rd Avenue Church of God in Oakland, California. Harris's religious identity is also influenced by her marriage to Douglas Emhoff, who is Jewish. They incorporate Jewish traditions and celebrations in their home life. Harris has expressed that her faith is an integral part of her life and leadership, describing it as something that extends beyond worship services to the way she lives and works. So, I think if you wanted a Christian dictator, Kamala Harris is a good pick.
Oh no!
For those Christians who are looking for that.
There you go. That's a fun take. Okay. Yeah, I mean, at least, like you said, the writers of the show, America, doing a good job. At least we're not bored. And literally now, we have a cartoonish president who came from the internet and TV, and a woman who, has been in countless side-by-side comparisons with Selena Meyer of Veep. This is great.
What is Selena Meyer of Veep? I don't understand this.
Veep is an HBO TV show about a fictional vice president who is very self-centered and incompetent and not actually interested in doing good things. And she says a lot of nonsense stuff. And there are tons of side-by-side mashups of Selena Meyer, this fictional vice president character, saying complete nonsense, and then Kamala Harris saying stuff that seems worse than that.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, she seems, from everything I've seen of her, pretty low IQ, but high diligence. Like, she's got a good work ethic, which I appreciate, but she doesn't appear to be cognitively all there, which is also really interesting about her.
Hi, I'm Oliver Bartholomew, and I'm 16 and a half years old, and I'm the speechwriter for Kamala Harris. Since I was little, I liked words. Writing words is fun, so I made writing words my job.
Space is exciting. Space, it affects us all. And it connects us all.
It's not all fun, though. Sometimes I have to write about bad stuff, like war.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically that's wrong.
Once I thought it would be neat if Kamala wore a blue suit and told people she was wearing it, because I like blue.
I'm a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit.
I can't take all the credit, though. Me and Mr. Kamala are a team, but she kind of is crazy or something. And she kind of scares me. And you can't fake that kind of influence. You're either born with it, or you're either not.
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
It could be, my brain turns off when I'm around people and I'm just on auto response and trying to make it through. She could be someone who has very high levels of social anxiety, and in private, she's capable of thinking again,
Maybe.
Give her the benefit of the doubt.
70 IQ from her, but we'll see. I'll put on some videos of her talking so you can see what I mean.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time.
Seems like maybe it's a small issue, it's a big issue. You need to get to go, and need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work and get home.
She's come so far since our first session. My name is Dahlia Rose Hibiscus, and I am Vice President Kamala Harris's Holistic Thought Advisor. I lead the Vice President on not so much sentences as idea voyages. It's a process I call speaking without thinking.
That's on top of everything else that we know and don't know yet, based on what we've just been able to see, and because we've seen it or not doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
The first thing I do is cut out all the words individually, and then I take those words to my word cave. That's where I wait to learn what order the universe wants them to be in. Have vibrations. The feeling they give you is so much more powerful than what they mean.
We have the ability to see what can be, unburdened by what has been, and then to make the possible actually happen.
Which is, unfortunate that somebody was able to literally sleep their way to the president, but okay. And then get there with diversity points.
Empowering.
Well, no, she did keep a lot of people in jail. She did also, I should, to her credit, she did also violate a lot of normative ethical standards to get there as well. It wasn't like she just slept her way to the top and used her identity. She also jailed a lot of innocent people.
Yeah.
and protected dirty politicians. That is lovely. All right. Have a good one, Simone. At least if you back her, she'll have your back. That's the good thing about somebody like her. She's the type of
Loyal.
that if
Loyal.
you go to the bat for, she'll have your back.
That,
So-
you know, doesn't happen so much these days. I like, you found a nice thing. Thanks, Malcolm.
Yeah, got
That's-
it in on a high note. I love you, Simone. By the
love
way,
you
I'm just going to
too.
reheat the meal I had earlier tonight.
Oh, you have leftovers again?
Yeah, in the fridge. Love you.
Okay. All right. Tater tots for the kids, though. They need their tots.
You're so special.
Oh my God. No, we're using the sushi train tonight.
Oh yeah, we got a little sushi train for the kids. To try
Everything
get
has
them
to be
interested in
small and
food.
bite-sized then. Okay, what am I going to do? Ooh, we made the bread on the weekend, so we're going to make French toast bites, and I'll make little squares, dinosaur nuggets.
Octavian, come here. Come sit with Daddy. You got to talk to Mommy. Here, hold the
Guess
microphone.
what? We have a sushi train for your food tonight. Do you know what a sushi train is?
Can I see the sushi train?
Yes, you can,
It's a
my
train
friend.
that carries your food.
And you get to eat food off of the train.
Does it have plates too?
It has
It
little
does have
plates
plates.
on top of the little train cars.
Does it need batteries?
I'm gonna leave Octavian here.
It is battery powered, and so Daddy put in the battery.
Oh, it is battery powered.
Can I ask you some questions about Kamala Harris, Octavian?
Yes.
Okay, Kamala Harris is going to run for president against President Trump. What do you think about that?
Yes.
Would you vote for President Trump or Kamala Harris? Which name do you like better?
Trump.
Trump. Okay, so you'd vote for Trump. Kamala Harris puts a lot of people in jail, sometimes because they actually did a bad thing, sometimes because there are other reasons, but not because they're bad guys. Is that okay?
Yes.
Oh, would you put a lot of innocent people in jail too, Octavian?
Well, I'm not a commander play. It's 280, so I cannot. That's 280 100.
What? Would you put people in jail to make your life easier, even if they didn't do a bad thing?
Yeah.
Octavian, can you say, please like and subscribe?
Please like and subscribe.
Say it louder.
Please watch and subscribe.
No. Please like and describe. Sorry. Can you tell our audience to please like and subscribe?
You're welcome.